All right, there we go. So we're broadcasting live now, but I like to keep it pretty casual and informal for the live viewers, of which there might be like a couple. So
Yeah, sure.
yeah, so thanks for chatting. Auto and home. I thought it'd be a good topic. The disability show we did last time was really good. It was really in depth, and I use it to reference a lot of times with clients. So thanks for
Good.
coming back on the show. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
I love the outdoor scenery too, because these days it's always fun to see where everybody's working from with the COVID world we're in. So
Yeah,
um,
a
you know,
little bit of both. Yeah, I still go into the office,
yeah,
but I don't mind my home office that much anymore. Especially on a nice day like today.
yeah.
So
I
uh,
love it. I have no office. My home office is my office, so it's completely virtual, which is awesome.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You can't beat it. So
Well, thanks for updating the questions here. So this is perfect. I'm just gonna we're gonna run through the top 10
yeah,
here. We'll kick on the music in a minute. I'll do the intro for the podcast portion,
sure.
but for any live viewers, feel free as usual. You can post comments in the chat, or not the chat, but in the comments section. We'll see those pop up. If any come in, we'll bring them up to Ashe. But for our live viewers, thanks for joining us today as well. So let's kick off the podcast portion. Hey everyone, welcome to Wealth Redefined. I'm your host, Michael Reynolds, owner of Elevation Financial and independent financial advisor, and we're glad you're here. Thanks for joining us today. On this podcast episode, we're talking auto and home insurance today, specifically top 10 most common auto and home insurance questions with my friend Ashe Abebe from Winklewitz Insurance. Ashe, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Good to see you again.
Glad to have you. So Ashe is joining us from, if you're on the audio portion, not the video portion, Ashe is joining us from his porch with the sun shining, beautiful view, birds singing. So if you hear some outdoor noises, that is why he's enjoying the weather while he's talking insurance today. So it's one of the silver linings about our COVID world is we've had a lot of people working from home nowadays, if not pretty much everybody, and that's, I think, good for a lot of people because you can enjoy the weather more and more flexibility. And there are a few good things coming out of that. So love the view, Ashe. Good stuff.
Thank you. Yeah.
Ashe was on the show a while back talking disability insurance, and today we're talking auto and home. So let me do a quick intro of you, and then I want you to tell us more about yourself as well. But so Ashe is an independent insurance agent at Winklewitz Insurance. His mission is to make the process of buying insurance as simple as possible and to be an advocate for his clients now and in the future. And I know that to be true because I work with Ashe on my auto and home insurance as well. His customer service is awesome. My clients love working with him as well. So Ashe, I probably didn't do your bio justice. You have a lot of fun facts in your background, I know. So what are some more fun facts you want to share with our audience?
Oh man, I don't know. Those are a little outdated, I feel like.
Yeah.
But probably the most fun now is being a dad. I've got one son, my wife and I, and he's almost 2. He'll be 2 in October. So, that's probably my most fun fact at the moment.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Other than growing out my mustache for quarantine. So
It's looking good. Looking good.
hey, thanks. Yeah,
Yeah.
I appreciate it. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I'm a pretty normal guy. I've been in the industry for, let's see here, over 11 years now, I think, which is kind of crazy to think about. So, just enjoying what I do, enjoy work, enjoy helping people, and just like everyone else, trying to have a little bit of fun along the way. So,
Right on.
yeah,
Right on.
yeah.
All right. Well, let's talk auto and home insurance. We have 10 questions here that I'm going to run through with you because these are common questions a lot of people ask about auto and home insurance. Auto and home seems like kind of basic stuff to a lot of people, but there are lots of little details that are good to understand, I think, so we can make good decisions. So our goal today is to do kind of not really a rapid fire, but just kind of a nice step-by-step list through these top 10 questions, get Ashe your insight on these to help our listeners understand these products better. So if that sounds good, we can kick off.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
All right. Wonderful. All right, Ashe, number 1, do credit scores affect premiums?
Oh man, you're starting off with a tough one there, right? So credit scores, there are definitely, the short answer to that is yes, right? Okay, so there are definitely aspects of your overall credit reporting that help determine what your rate is going to be, okay? Some companies factor that in pretty heavily, as you can imagine, and other companies don't care about it nearly as much. my biggest piece of advice on that one is obviously do whatever you can to keep your credit score up and high and those numbers higher, because obviously that's important for a variety of other things other than just your insurance rate. Um, but the nice part about being an independent agent, as you can imagine, like I said, I've got some companies that factor in that overall credit score, what we call insurance score, because believe it or not, I cannot see what your credit score is when I run quotes. Okay. So it's not me pulling a credit file and all that stuff. It's just the insurance company's just grabbing aspects of the overall credit reporting. But as I was saying, the nice part about being an independent agent is I may have someone with a crazy excellent in credit score, and might put them with a company that appreciates that and wants to do business with individuals that have better credit scores. And I can have someone that has a really difficult credit score, just buying a house for the first time, has been rebuilding their credit. And a company may look at that and say, you know what, that's okay. We're going to still give them a preferred rate for that as well. So the nice part about what I do is I get to kind of pick and choose where some of that lands, because as you can imagine, if someone, whatever their credit score is, if they're just going with one company, going direct with one company that has that option for them, it may not be the best fit for them, as you can imagine.
Gotcha. All right. So that's a pretty common one. So credit score does sometimes play a difference.
Sure.
Next question, also probably one of the most popular, is every time I rent a car, I'm asked if I would like to purchase rental car insurance. Is this something I need, or does my existing insurance cover the rental? They're always trying to push it on you, it seems.
That's a really good question. So that's probably the most common question I get, I would have to think, from existing clients. Not haven't gotten it as much this year because a lot of people aren't traveling and going as much, but that is definitely a very, very common question. So in regards to rental car, and what we're talking about here is if you're just going on a vacation or whatever it may be, and you need to pick up a rental car. So every policy is a little different as far as the language on this. So I'm just going to kind of be a little bit more general on this one. For the most part, your liability coverage and your deductibles, if you have full coverage, will extend to that rental car when you're renting a rental car. Okay. So if you get in an accident in that rental car, you're going to have the same liability limits you have in that rental as you do in your own vehicle that you own. Same thing with the deductibles. You have $500 deductibles for comprehensive and collision. Same thing. If you get in an accident, those $500 deductibles will more than likely extend to the rental car. The only area that's a little bit of a gray area is what we call contractual liability. So those rental cars, they like to turn around and sell them every, 1 to 2 years as they get a little bit older. Let's say you get in an accident in that rental car, there's $10,000 in damage, they get it fixed, and now they go to sell it a year or two later. They can't sell it for nearly as much as they did because of that previous accident. Okay. So there's a little bit of contractual liability that you may or may not be on the hook for down the line if they do try to sell that rental car and they can't get as much for it as they thought they were going to be able to. Same thing. Let's use that same scenario. You're in a rental car, you get in an accident, and now it's in the shop for 5 weeks. Okay. Well, they can't rent that car out now because it's in the shop for 5 weeks. So there's loss of rents as well that could technically come back to you in the event that you have that rental car. So those things can happen. Do they happen all the time? Not necessarily, no. But it's just important to understand that those things are things that you can be on the hook for in the event that you have a rental car and you do have an accident. 99.9% of the time, actually 100% of the time, I always buy the damage waiver coverage. So I think it's important to understand that the rental car companies tries to package this all together, and they charge you $23 or $24 a day to add the insurance. You don't need to buy the whole thing. You can split it up and figure out what parts make the most sense for you. Usually what I say is once you get to that counter, maybe call your agent while you're there and try to figure out what makes the most sense. So
good to know. Damage waiver coverage, you can buy that individually without the whole package, it sounds like.
They try to do the damage waiver, the liability, the roadside assistance, the GPS. Yeah. They try to package it all and they call it insurance coverage, right? So take a step back and say, hey, what on earth is this? Why is this costing me $25 a day? And then you'll realize why.
Oh,
So
interesting. Good insight. I didn't know that.
yeah.
Next question. So I'm always told that bundling auto and home insurance together saves you money. Is that always the case, or are there exceptions?
Man, I would say over 90% of the time that is a true statement. The only time it becomes an issue is, let's say, for example, I'm writing a client on auto and home, and one or the other policies has a lot of claims activity, claims situation. So let's say they have 3 or 4 home claims in the last 3 years. Well, I can write your auto and it's still great here, but I got to find another alternative option for your home, because most standard companies aren't going to want to write somebody that has that many claims so frequently within a 3-year situation, if that makes sense. But like I said, 95% of the time, that home and auto bundle is going to be the ticket. In rare situations, it doesn't make sense, and a lot of the times when you work with an independent agent, they can kind of pick and choose and figure that out for you.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. Next, what are the most common home insurance claims?
Most common home claims. Okay, so I will speak to Central Indiana area, if that's okay. But wind and hail is number one in this area, as I'm sure you know. If you've been in the area for long enough, it seems like we have a major hailstorm, or over the last couple of years, this intense wind has been coming through the area, it seems, and we are fighting like crazy to keep up with claims sometimes in the spring, just because of how wild the hailstorms get here. The second most common would be water backup. So individuals who have basements or crawl space. So if a sump pump fails down there, or water backs up from an exposed drain down in either your basement or crawl space area, that's a very, very common claim. Again, we're seeing that a lot in this area when spring hits. And this week it looks like there's going to be a lot of rain too, Michael. So, it seems, when I first started, it seemed like everything was always happening in the spring, and now it just seems like everything is just kind of continuous and year round these days. But those are the two most common. Theft starts to get up there as well. So, someone, whether it's breaking into your house, or, again, these things don't always have to happen at home, Michael. It could be, I just had a client that was out golfing, and they misplaced their rangefinder, and it was a $600 rangefinder. And he called me to ask me if it was covered. He fortunately had it scheduled on his homeowner's policy. I told him it was covered. I said, maybe just wait a day or two to see if it turns up. And sure enough, the golf shop called him and said, hey, we found a rangefinder here. But if that would have been stolen, that's still something that would have been covered under the home policy. So wind, hail, water backup, miscellaneous water damage, and I would say theft is up there as well. So
Gotcha. All right. Next, what is the easiest way to reduce my monthly premium?
Oh man, that's a good one. Well, obviously the easiest way is just to remove all your endorsements and coverages and get them down to the bare bones and get them all down to state minimum. Now, is that the most intelligent way to do it?
I'm going to guess no.
Probably not. Probably not. First and foremost, if you're working with an independent agent, touch base with them and figure out what the options are. I don't think, obviously in these times right now, we're seeing people without jobs. We're seeing people that are still not called back to work quite yet. So you have to be very careful about that, and you want to be able to still help folks out. I would say the number one, the easiest way to do it, that's not the worst, would be, first off, looking at your deductibles. So most common deductibles on the auto are going to be $500. Most common on the home, generally about $1,000 deductible. So if you're able to inch those up a little bit to like $1,500 on the home, possibly $2,000 on the home, again, that's going to mean you're going to pay more out of pocket when you have a claim, but you could see quite a bit of savings coming back on that, especially if it was a temporary thing. You're strapped on cash, or dealing with the economy right now. If you're not back to work or whatever it may be, those would be some ways to do it if you could do it effectively. bumping that deductible up on the home to 1,500 or 2,000, on the auto 750 or 1,000. You could see some savings come back on that to help that monthly cost on both policies.
Okay. All right. This one's auto insurance specific. Can anyone drive my car?
Say it again.
If I have an auto insurance policy, can anyone drive my car?
Can anyone drive your car? Okay, so that's another question that I get a lot. So if I have an auto policy, and Michael Reynolds is my neighbor, and he says, "Hey, Ashe, can I borrow your car?" I give you permission to. Sure, Michael. Of course you can borrow my car. You can borrow my car. You're covered under that auto policy. Okay. Where it starts to get a little dicey is Michael's my next door neighbor, and he borrows my car every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Okay. Now you're becoming a regular use operator of my vehicle. That can sometimes be a little bit of a gray area in the auto policy, if that makes sense. Okay. So when you're talking about regular use operators that are not household members, that are not listed on my auto policy, there's an area where you probably want to confirm and touch base with your insurance agent on how your policy is going to respond if Michael Reynolds ends up driving my car and getting in an accident. Does that make sense?
It does. Thank you.
So usually, if you're giving someone permission to, you're usually going to be okay in that situation. Just turns into, if this is an individual that's borrowing it twice a week, the same 2 days every week, that we may need to start talking about, do we need to add them, or do we need to, talk about how that looks if they do get in an accident. Those are the areas you just want to be a little bit more careful about.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So next question. I think we're on number 7. How often should I shop my auto and home insurance? Can I do that anytime? Is there like an annual thing? What's the guideline there?
Yeah. So I think annually is a good number. There's a couple reasons why. If you start shopping too much, you're not going to get as favorable rates or offered favorable rates from other insurance companies. Insurance companies do look at longevity, so how long you have been with a certain company, to help give you a more competitive rate if you switch to them. If they're looking at you and you just switched 4 months ago, they're probably thinking, he or she is probably just looking for the best price, and then 4 months down the line, we're going to lose them again. So you have to be a little bit careful with that. That's why I kind of feel like that 12-month spot makes the most sense. Now I'm always honest with individuals. We reshop every 12 months. You won't see a lot of fluctuation every 12 months. We usually don't start to see big fluctuation in rate until about 24, 36 and beyond. But needless to say, if you have multiple accidents or the opposite is happening, you've had a lot of accidents and now those are getting outside of 3 years, 5 years, and now they're not on your record anymore, it's good to make sure that you reshop along those lines, because let's say you had an accident 4 years ago, and you're looking at that 5th year, but your policy doesn't renew until the end of next year. Well, that accident's going to fall off in a couple months, let's say. Well, it might make sense, instead of waiting until that renewal comes up, to shop it when that accident is, just to be a little bit ahead of the game a little bit there. Gotcha. But usually that 12-month mark is kind of the minimum that we like to see. There are a couple exceptions to that, but generally 12 months is a good number.
Okay. So someone's just kind of been complacent and gone 3 or 4 years without getting new quotes. Definitely a good time for it, probably.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Especially if there's, you've had claims in the past, or there's no activity, you haven't had any tickets, accidents, any home claims. Absolutely. Yeah.
Gotcha. So here's a fun one I've seen sometimes. So I've heard conflicting things. Some people say it makes a difference. Some people say it's a myth. Will my red car, or kind of shiny looking, fast looking car, make a difference in my auto insurance bills?
From a color standpoint, no. So the
Okay.
color doesn't matter. If it's shiny new and has a V8 engine or something along those lines, then maybe you're going to see a little bit of change in rate if it's a high performance vehicle, or
the type of car might make a difference, but the color does not.
The color does not. The color does not. You're correct.
All right.
Correct.
Interesting.
Buy any color you want.
Okay, good to know. All right. What is an umbrella policy? Some people talk about adding that onto auto and home insurance.
Yeah, yeah. So an umbrella policy, to put it easily, really it's just excess liability coverage. So let's say that in the event your auto policy or homeowner's policy, you have a claim, home claim, maybe somebody comes over, they trip and fall, they get hurt on your property, and let's say you have $500,000 in liability coverage on your homeowner's policy. Well, let's say they lawyer up and they want to sue you for $750,000. Well, the first 500,000 will come from the homeowner's policy, and that 250 you'd be on the hook for. If you have an umbrella policy, that umbrella policy is going to take care of that $250,000 that you're now on the hook for, and your homeowner's policy will still take care of the initial 500. And so it does the same with the home as it does on the auto. So same thing. You're in a major auto accident. You injure 5 people in 4 different cars. Again, if you're exhausted on liability limits and there's a $1 million claim, maybe the first 500,000 comes from your auto policy, and the next 500,000 will come from that umbrella after that. So that's
umbrella policy can cover both.
Exactly. Yeah, it's designed to cover both. 100%.
Good. Nice. Thank you.
Yep.
All right. I think we're on the last question, which is more of a free form for you. So what's one thing you wish everyone knew about auto and home insurance? Or I guess I could call this make up your own question. What have we not covered that is important for people to know in your opinion?
I would say the biggest thing is that not all home and auto policies are the same. I think that's probably the biggest challenge still in our industry, where you're able to access things online, which is great. You're able to pick and choose your coverages all based off of price. That's great and all, but at the end of the day, I always say price is important in the absence of value, right? So you just have to be very careful, especially in times like these where you may have more folks out of work or more folks trying to get back to work. Insurance is one of those things that a lot of people cut. A lot of people, that's the first thing. That's the first monthly bill that's going through their mind of, why do I need this? I think the biggest thing, again, is just not all home and auto policies are the same. From company to company, it just, everything is different. So you just have to be very careful when you're evaluating those things. Let an expert do it for you. It's going to save you a lot of time, and it'll save you a lot of money down the line.
The insurance is really interesting. It's a funny product because I can't think of any insurance policy that people love paying premiums for. You don't get a tangible thing for it immediately. You feel like you're just kind of like flushing money away because what am I getting for this? But then as soon as you need it, you really like it.
100%. And you want, as soon as you need it, you hope that you have the right coverage for water backup. You hope you have the right coverage for that hail claim that just totaled out your roof and it's $20,000. I really hope you have the right endorsement, so it's replacement cost, and so you get a brand new roof, and so they don't say, hey, sorry, your roof's 15 years old, so here's only $7,000 for it. Well, this estimate's $20,000. How am I supposed to come up with the difference? So it's just all those things that it's just really important to make sure you're aware of all that, and that you're not out there just solely evaluating this stuff based on price.
So, yeah, good to know.
Yeah.
All right. So you serve a little bit about you just to kind of wrap up here. So you serve Indiana, obviously, and you also serve surrounding states touching Indiana, correct?
Exactly. Yep.
Okay. Gotcha. So
Illinois, Ohio, and Michigan. Yep.
Not Kentucky, though?
Not Kentucky.
Okay. So kind of the north side states.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool. So if someone is outside that area, do you have a favorite like online broker, or do you have other referral agents you can refer people to in other parts of the country? What's your recommendation for people in, say, California that?
Yeah. So generally, if I have a client that's moving out there, we work with our companies to try and help find a reputable independent agent. Because again, I mean, I could point to an online company here or there, but at the end of the day, if they're not getting an agent that can answer questions for them, or help them through a claim process, they're really spinning their wheels in those situations. So we always try to line it up with, if they've got a company that we can access out in that particular state, we'll try to set them up with an independent agency to work with out there as well.
Okay.
So,
great.
Yeah.
Great. All right. So last question I always ask my guests. This is a show about wealth and redefining and building wealth, and insurance is a big part of that, obviously protecting that wealth. So what does wealth mean to you, Ashe?
Yeah, man, I remember that question.
Yeah, from last
The
time.
first time you asked me. Man, I think I still have the same answer, Michael. I think it's flexibility. I think is what I answered the last time. Probably even more so now than ever. I would just have to stick with flexibility. Yeah,
I like that.
100%.
Yeah, there are
Couldn't be more true right now. I feel like so.
Yeah, exactly. We're living
Yeah.
here on your front porch. I'm in my home office. We're getting as much or more work done as before, and technology allows that and makes it feasible. So it's great
Yeah,
stuff.
100%. 100%. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Ash. It's been fun to kind of run through these common questions, and I want to make sure people can find you as well. I hope you forgive me. I'm not going to make people try to spell Winklewitz Insurance, so I'm going to say go to elevationfinancial.com, look for episode 67, and we will link out to Ashe's bio and the Winklewitz website there. You can certainly try to spell Winklewitz if you want to, but it might be easier to just link for my website.
I got no problem with you doing that.
Yeah.
I got no problem with that.
Yeah. So, but you do have a great website where your information is on there. People can contact you there.
Absolutely.
You do many types of insurance. You do auto and home, disability, life as well as a few other types, I think. So, like I said, I refer a lot of my clients to you, and you've been great to work with for me personally and my family too. So, thank you for that.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate doing this. I think it's good, and I always enjoy being on your podcast. I always get a little nervous before. I just don't know why, but it's always just fun.
Oh, it's just my humble podcast.
It's your humble podcast. It's great.
Well, I'm sure you'll be back. I definitely want to have you back. So
I hope so.
All right. Well, thanks, Ashe, for joining us. Thanks, everyone, for joining us as well for this episode. You can find me online at elevationfinancial.com. And again, look for this episode 67, for the show notes to find Ashe. And you can always book a meeting with me online as well on that homepage. Click that button. And again, thanks for joining us today. Have a great day. And we'll see you next time. Okay, so we're still on live. So I want to say thank you also to our live viewers who joined us today. So thanks for coming by. If you're on YouTube or Facebook, join us next time. We go live with these before, like a day or two before the podcast recording as well, so you can see us in real life too. So thanks everyone for joining us live, and we see you next time as well.